Something inside you paused the moment your eyes landed on these words. It wasn't logical, it wasn't planned, and it wasn't something you could explain if someone asked. It was a shift, tiny but unmistakable. A part of you leaned closer before you even realized it. A quiet awareness rose in your chest, the kind that makes you think, why does this feel like it's meant for me? Because it is meant for you. You didn't find this message by chance. This message found you, gently, deliberately, at the exact moment your spirit became ready to hear what it has been avoiding, craving, and quietly calling for. There are moments in life where the universe doesn't whisper. It chooses you. And this is one of those moments. Archangel Michael speaks into the space you are holding right now, saying, this is your moment, not a coincidence, a calling. You might not realize it yet, but something in your life has been shifting beneath the surface. A subtle tug on your heart, a quiet pull in a direction you can't name, a strange heaviness followed by an unexpected calm. These paradoxes you've been feeling are not confusion, they are communication. Think back on today. At some point, even briefly, you sensed something. Maybe your thoughts wandered somewhere unusual. Maybe you felt a sudden emotion without reason. Maybe a memory resurfaced. Maybe there was a moment where it seemed like the world around you slowed down for a second. That sensation, that nudge, was the first signal. And this message is the second. The universe rarely speaks twice, unless it truly needs you to listen. You have been carrying a question inside you, quietly, almost secretly. Something like, is there something more for me? Something I'm supposed to notice? But you asked that question during a time when you were too overwhelmed to hear an answer. Your days have been full of noise, responsibilities, expectations, worries, disappointments, hopes. All of it swirled together into a fog that made your inner voice harder to recognize. But today, for the first time in a while, something inside you softened enough to listen. That's why this message appears now, and not yesterday, not last week, not last month. The timing is not arbitrary. It's aligned. It comes in the very moment your inner world has enough stillness to receive truth instead of resisting it. Archangel Michael whispers, when the heart becomes quiet, guidance becomes loud. Lately, you've been experiencing a kind of inner shift that may not have made sense. Feeling disconnected one day and strangely hopeful the next. Feeling exhausted in the morning and energized without reason by evening. Feeling like something in your life is ending while something else is trying to begin. This emotional turbulence hasn't been random. It's been your transition. You are in a threshold season, not fully in the old chapter, not yet in the new one. You are standing somewhere in between, where the past no longer fits and the future hasn't fully appeared. That feeling of not belonging to your old life anymore? That's not you being lost. That's you being called. You've probably noticed subtle signs. People who once took up space in your heart feel more distant. Situations that used to drain you now feel intolerable. Dreams you once dismissed have started resurfacing. A quiet sense of, I can't keep living like this, followed by, but I can't go back either. A longing you can't articulate, but can't ignore. These are all symptoms of spiritual alignment. Your soul has been shifting, even when your mind didn't understand what was happening. This message is not meant to give you new information. It is meant to confirm what your spirit has already known, but your conscious self has not yet accepted. It is the validation you didn't know you were waiting for. Because here is the truth you've been circling around. You are not the person you used to be. Not emotionally. Not spiritually. Not energetically. Not internally. Your outer life may look the same, but your inner life is transforming. Your old ways of thinking are loosening. Old fears are losing their authority. Old wounds no longer control your path the way they used to. The person you learned to be, the one who carried too much, stayed quiet too long, tried too hard, tolerated too much, is dissolving. And the person you truly are, the one you've suppressed, avoided, or forgotten, is resurfacing. Part of you already senses this. That's why you feel more aware, more awake, more reflective than before. That's why moments that used to break you don't hit as deeply now. That's why certain behaviors, environments, or patterns feel heavier, because your soul is rejecting what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. The moment you read the first line of this message, your energy shifted slightly. That was your inner self saying, "Yes, this is for me." And that subtle confirmation matters. It means you are ready to engage with your life from a place of awareness instead of survival. It means your spirit is stepping forward and your old identity is stepping back. Archangel Michael sees your readiness and says, "You are closer to your truth than you have ever been." The universe doesn't send messages like this to everyone, only to those whose internal frequency has risen enough to sense them. Only to those who are standing at the doorway of transformation. Only to those who have endured enough, learned enough, grown enough to finally receive the guidance meant for their next chapter. And whether you believe it fully or not, that's you. This moment, this exact moment, is your spirit's recognition point. You are not imagining the shift. You're not overthinking it. You're not creating a story out of nothing. You are awakening. Your intuition is sharpening. Your emotional clarity is rising. Your inner guidance system is turning back on. The signs you noticed earlier today were not coincidences. They were confirmations. And now, this message has arrived to show you that your spirit didn't nudge you by accident. It nudged you because it knew this was the moment you would stop scrolling through your life long enough to actually hear your calling. You have stepped into the beginning of something sacred, something meant, something yours. You felt something earlier today, a flicker in your chest, a moment where time felt slightly out of rhythm, a strange thought that came and went before you could explain it. And now, reading these words, you're beginning to recognize that the feeling wasn't random at all. It was the beginning of this conversation. The universe started speaking before you realized you were listening. Archangel Michael calls this the recognition moment, the instant when your inner world finally becomes aware that guidance is forming around you. Most people dismiss that moment. They brush it off as emotion or imagination. But you didn't. Something in you paused. Something inside you whispered, "Pay attention." And you are paying attention now in a way you haven't in a very long time. Look at yourself honestly. You have spent months, maybe years, moving through life as if you were carrying a weight no one else could see. You have been strong for too long, silent for too long, hopeful for too long without receiving the reassurance your heart needed. You've pushed forward through confusion. You've tried to make sense of what fell apart and tried even harder to understand why certain things never aligned the way you hoped. You thought you were lost. You thought you were stuck. You thought you were failing. But that wasn't the truth. What you were actually experiencing was transition, the uncomfortable, invisible, spiritual kind of transition that happens before clarity arrives. It never announces itself politely. It comes as restlessness, exhaustion, disconnection, irritability, sudden bursts of emotion, or that vague sense that something in your life doesn't fit anymore. And here's the part you never told anyone. You felt it growing stronger lately. The quiet pressure in your chest. The shift in what you can tolerate. The sudden urge to withdraw and rethink everything. The moments where your intuition felt louder than your logic. The lingering sense that your life is preparing for something you can't yet see. All of this has been leading here, to this message, to this confirmation, to this turning point. Archangel Michael says, you sensed the beginning of the shift. Now you are being shown the meaning of it. You haven't been confused. You've been guided. You haven't been falling apart. You've been shedding. You haven't been losing direction. You've been clearing space. You haven't been abandoned. You've been prepared. Let those words sink into the deepest part of you. Let them reach the places where you've held fear, doubt, shame, or exhaustion. You've been trying to make sense of everything through your mind, but your spirit already understood the truth. Something in your life is ending because something new is finally ready to begin. You can feel this ending and beginning overlap inside you. One moment you feel done with everything. The next moment you feel strangely hopeful. One moment you're overwhelmed. The next moment you feel a quiet strength rising. This internal contradiction frustrated you, but contradiction is how transformation introduces itself. Your soul has been adjusting its direction, and your emotions have simply been reacting to the shift. Look closer at what has changed in you recently. Your patience for the wrong things has run out. Your desire for the right things has intensified. Your tolerance for empty connections is disappearing. Your need for deeper purpose is awakening. Your sensitivity has become sharper, not weaker. Your intuition is beginning to speak in full sentences instead of whispers. Even if your external world looks unchanged, your inner world is not the same person it was even a month ago. And that inner shift is why this message found you now. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You were meant to read this on a day when your spirit felt unsettled, on a day when the weight was heavier than usual, on a day when you felt the need for something, anything, to tell you that you're not imagining the changes happening inside you because you aren't imagining it. Archangel Michael wants you to understand something most people never realize. When you grow spiritually, the old version of your life becomes too small for you. And that's what you've been feeling. The discomfort of outgrowing an identity you no longer belong to. Your old beliefs, old routines, old emotional patterns, old attachments. They no longer fit the person you are becoming. It's like wearing shoes that are one size too small. You can force it, but not without pain. You can stay there, but not without losing movement. You can pretend they fit, but deep down you know they don't. Your soul has expanded beyond the life you built in your previous chapter. That's why certain people feel different around you. That's why certain environments drain you more quickly. That's why things that once excited you now feel flat. That is why your emotions have been unpredictable, because your spirit has been negotiating with your old reality. But here is the most important truth. Your new reality is ready. Your old reality is releasing you. You are standing in the doorway between the two. This doorway is sacred. Most people ignore it. But you didn't. You felt it. And because you felt it, the universe responded. Right now, you are being pulled forward, not pushed, called, not forced, invited, not pressured. Your soul is giving you permission to step into the version of yourself that you buried under responsibility, fear, and survival. And as you read these words, a deeper part of you is waking up, the part that remembers your purpose, your resilience, your intuition, and your path. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are becoming. Every strange feeling today, every sudden thought, every moment of emotional intensity, every shift in perspective, every intuitive nudge, it was all preparing you for this recognition. You are entering alignment. And once alignment begins, nothing, not fear, not doubt, not circumstance, can stop what is meant for you. You are stepping into clarity, connection, and truth. You are stepping out of confusion, heaviness, and limitation. You are stepping toward your future self, the one who has been waiting for you. There comes a moment in every deep transition when you finally realize that you are not just changing, you reawakening. Part of you has already felt this, even if you didn't know how to describe it. The restlessness, the emotional waves, the quiet clarity that comes and goes like a tide. It was never instability. It was emergence. And now, reading these words, something inside you knows. You are crossing a line you can never uncross. This is the moment when your future self steps forward, not as a dream, Not as a fantasy, not as the version of you that you hope to become someday. No, this is the moment when the version of you that already exists, stronger, calmer, clearer, more aligned, begins to merge with who you are right now. You can feel that subtle merging happening in your chest, like something finally settling into place. Archangel Michael explains it like this. The person you are becoming has been walking toward you. Now you are close enough to feel their presence. That is why your emotions have been unpredictable. That is why your intuition has been louder. That is why certain fears that once controlled you now feel strangely distant. You are not unstable. You are upgrading. You are not overloaded. You are being rewired. Your spirit is rearranging itself to fit the identity that matches your next chapter. You've been sensing this identity shift long before you consciously recognized it. Think about it. You felt disconnected from things you once tolerated easily. You've found yourself craving quiet more than noise. You've become more sensitive to dishonesty, chaos, and emotional clutter. Your patience for the wrong people, the wrong environments, the wrong versions of yourself has evaporated. You've felt a pull towards something deeper, even if you couldn't articulate what that something was. This is what spiritual realignment feels like. It begins subtly, quietly. Your soul whispers, "This isn't you anymore." Your intuition nudges, "Pay attention." Your emotions echo, "Something is off," or "Something is coming." And then the old version of you begins to dissolve, not in a dramatic way, not in a painful way, more like a shell cracking open, more like a layer shedding, more like an identity you've outgrown falling away because it can no longer contain you. That's why memories keep resurfacing, not to hurt you, but to release you. That's why old fears are losing their voice. That's why you're no longer interested in proving yourself. That's why solitude feels safer than noise. That's why you've been craving authenticity in a way you never have before. You're not becoming someone new. You're returning to someone true. The real you, the one you buried under responsibility, fear, expectation, and survival, has been waiting patiently for the moment when you would be strong enough to reclaim them. And now that moment is here. Notice what's happening inside you right now as you read. Your breath is slower. Your mind is quieter. Your heart feels open but grounded. Your spirit feels attentive. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You are aligning with the version of yourself that already knows the direction your life is meant to move toward. A version of you that has healed from what you're still processing. A version of you who has already let go of what you're afraid to release. A version of you who operates from courage instead of survival, from clarity instead of confusion, from intuition instead of fear. And in this moment, that future self is closer than ever. You can almost feel them standing behind you, guiding you gently forward, whispering, "This is the way." Everything you've experienced lately makes sense through this lens. You not losing interest. You shedding misalignment. You're not overreacting. You're becoming sensitive to truth. You're not pulling away. You're reclaiming your energy. You're not doubting everything. You're questioning the beliefs that never belonged to you. You're not tired of people. You're tired of versions of yourself you had to become around them. This is what it feels like when your soul is reconfiguring your reality. Your energy has outgrown the environments that once held you. Your spirit has outgrown the limitations you once accepted. Your heart has outgrown the wounds that once defined you. Your mind has outgrown the stories that once controlled you. This is why you've been feeling the internal breaks and shifts. You're stepping into a new identity, one that is connected to truth, intuition, clarity, and alignment. Archangel Michael says, "This awakening is not happening to you. It is happening because you are ready." You may not feel ready in your mind, but your soul has been ready for a long time. That inner tug you've been ignoring, that's direction. That subtle ache for something more meaningful, That's purpose. That quiet discomfort around certain people, that's discernment. That sudden excitement about a dream you thought you gave up, that's memory, your soul remembering what it came here for. Your transformation isn't just emotional, it's existential. You are beginning to remember who you are beneath everything life made you become. You are beginning to remember your strength, your sensitivity, your intuition, your depth, your capacity, your calling. The old version of you would have dismissed these words as poetic or dramatic, but the current version of you recognizes them as truth. And the future version of you sees them as a promise. Feel the shift happening in your body as you read, the warmth in your chest, the looseness in your breath, the quiet certainty rising slowly. These are signs of inner alignment, confirmation that your spirit is not only listening, it is responding. The more you accept this shift, the faster your external reality will begin to change. People will fall away. Opportunities will appear. Clarity will sharpen. Your path will open. Because your reality must reflect your identity, and your identity is evolving. This is why you needed this message, not for comfort, not for motivation, but for recognition, the validation of what you've been feeling but could not name. You are becoming the person your future requires. There is a point in every inner transformation where the shift stops being a feeling and becomes a decision. You have arrived at that point now. You can sense it. The atmosphere around you feels different. Your breath feels deeper. Your awareness feels sharper. It's as if the world hasn't changed, but your position inside it has. And this sensation, subtle yet undeniable, is the sign that you've crossed into the doorway that your soul has been guiding you toward. This is where the new story begins, not when circumstances change, but when you do. All the signs that led you here, all the nudges you felt today, all the emotions you tried to ignore, all the unanswered questions, all the internal friction. They weren't random disruptions. They were preparation. They were the early tremors announcing the arrival of a new chapter. You've been walking toward this moment without knowing it. And now that you're here, something inside you has exhaled in recognition. Archangel Michael speaks clearly into this moment. The shift is not something you wait for. It is something you answer. And that is exactly what you're redoing as you read these words. You're re-answering the call that has been echoing in your spirit for longer than you care to admit. The pieces you couldn't understand finally begin aligning. The heaviness you carried begins loosening. The confusion begins dissolving. Not because your external world changed, but because your internal world finally accepted what it has known all along. The old chapter is finished, not in anger, not in collapse, not in dramatic endings, but in quiet truth. You are done with the version of yourself that needed to shrink to survive. You are done with tolerating what drains your spirit. You are done with suppressing your intuition to keep the peace. You are done with betraying your own needs. You are done with settling for less than the depth you crave. You are done with carrying burdens alone. Your spirit is done pretending to be smaller than it is. You've spent a long time living through patterns that weren't aligned with your truth. You've stayed in places long after your soul whispered, "It's time to go." You've given energy to people who couldn't hold it. You've tried to heal situations that were not yours to fix. You've tried to earn love that should have been freely given. You've carried responsibilities that weren't meant to belong to one person. But the moment you began reading this message, something inside you shifted, a recognition that you can return to who you were before this awakening. You can't go back to ignoring the signs. You can't go back to silencing your inner guidance. You can't go back to forcing what isn't meant for you. You can't go back to the emotional vocabulary of your old identity, because the version of you who accepted those old patterns no longer exists. You've outgrown them. You've risen above them. You've expanded beyond them. And now, your life must expand to match your spirit. Feel what is happening inside you right now. There is clarity forming where confusion used to live. There is strength rising where fear used to take hold. There is hope building where doubt used to settle. There is peace growing where chaos once lived. There is intuition speaking where silence once echoed. These are not temporary feelings. They are identity markers. They show you the direction your future self lives in. Your future self, the one who has been calling you forward through every sign, every synchronicity, every quiet nudge, now stands fully before you. You can feel them. They feel like truth. They feel like alignment. They feel like someone you have wanted to be, but now finally recognize as someone you are becoming. This version of you moves differently. They don't chase. They don't beg. They don't cling. They don't justify. They don't run from intuition. They don't negotiate their worth. They choose. They receive. They trust. They release. They create. They align. And the extraordinary part is this. That version of you is not far away. They are one decision away, one moment of inner agreement, one quiet yes. Archangel Michael offers the clarity many people never hear. You do not transform when you feel ready. You transform when you choose. Read that again, slowly. Your readiness is not the prerequisite. Your choice is. And here is what your choice unlocks. The moment you decide who you are becoming, your reality begins reorganizing around that identity. Doors open, people shift, opportunities appear, conversations change, energy flows, synchronicities multiply. Everything starts aligning with the version of you who stepped forward, not through effort, through resonance. But before the external world can realign, your inner world must make a declaration, a seal, a conscious claim. That is why you're rereading this part right now, because you've reached the moment of sealing. This is the moment where your spirit asks, will you answer the call that has been echoing inside you? Not tomorrow, not when things feel easier, not when you have more proof, not when fear is quieter. Now, because this moment, this exact moment, carries an energy that wants to return in the same form again. It is a window, a portal, a spiritual acceleration. It is the birthplace of your next chapter. You already feel the pull. You already feel the truth. You already feel the alignment. You already feel the old falling away. And the only step remaining is the simplest one, choosing to become the person you were always meant to grow into. Say it quietly inside yourself, gently, honestly, without force. I answer the call. Feel how your energy shifts when you say that. Feel how your chest expands. Feel how your breath deepens. Feel how your spirit awakens. Feel how your old identity releases its grip. Feel how your future self steps closer. This is the moment destiny acknowledges your participation. You are not waiting for signs anymore. You are not hoping for alignment anymore. You are not searching for permission anymore. You are choosing your path. And from this moment forward, your story begins to move with you, not against you.